thank you guys for coming to our food service industry forum. I would like to have each of you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the food service industry experience that you've had and what to start with.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Liz. I come from the F&B, the CPG world. For over the last 9 years, I've worked for DoorDash, I've worked for Uber Eats, I've worked for Cloud Kitchens. Total probably worked with over like 2,000 restaurants at this point throughout my career. Currently I work at Fiber First, which is a fiber optic company, which is a little bit different than my entire background, but I wanted to get into marketing, and I currently do freelance, and I work with restaurants in downtown Phoenix, helping them expand their marketing reach, their digital footprint, and bringing in new customers. So, yeah.
Nice. My name's Lauren Deja. I have been working with restaurants since I was in high school. I started as a host at Denny's. And then in 2010, after I had babies and I came back into the workforce, I started building websites for restaurants, just kind of walking in, meeting the owner, saying, hey, I didn't find you on the web. Yeah, we don't have a website. Okay, well, I'll build you a website and we'll set up some social media pages for you. And back then it was the Wild West. So I just handed them their logins and wished them luck. And then a couple years later, Google started ads, and digital marketing became an industry. And so I got Google AdWords certified. I ended up selling ads for Yelp. I've kind of done everything in the marketing space for restaurants when it comes to that. But then I moved into software. I've sold payroll software. I've sold POS software. I've sold digital marketing software. So I've helped restaurants just in general, kind of with their entire software stack now. So that's kind of where my happy place is I like to come in, see what you're paying for, why you're paying for it, and either help you streamline it or help you buy more, depending on what you need. So I'm currently working for an auto shop. He scouted me away from the restaurant. He was like, hey, can you do for my business what you do for restaurants? And I was like, sure. So I'm working for him now, but yeah, I'm still consulting and everything. So it's been real fun working with restaurants.
Perfect. Well, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Trish Hayden. I'm Director of Member Services. I come from the restaurant industry my entire career, so I have a serious soft spot for the restaurant industry. And anything that I can do to help support that industry, I will do. We all will here at the Mesa Chamber. I've been here almost 3 years, so let's get started. So, a couple questions that we have. Let's start with where you see the food service industry today, some positives and some challenges. And Deja, if you want to go first. And then
Sure. I think the positives in the food industry now is your relationship with your customers has a whole new meaning, because consumers just really are not trying new stuff anymore. They're not going to take a chance on an $80 dinner out having burgers and beer and maybe not like it, or maybe have bad service. So they tend to be more like your repeat business, and the ability to build community, that ability to offer third space to people is more important than ever, I feel like. And personally, I feel like we desperately need to rebuild community after COVID. And so I think that that's actually a positive, and that if we can all shift our focus on how do we make the third space welcoming, how do we make sure that the people who know and love us are coming back to us more often, I think those are the questions to answer in the positive space. The challenge is food costs. I feel like food costs is labor costs, labor stability, keeping people on staff. And food costs are, like, anybody looking down the pike knows that it's scary. Next year it's gonna get nuts. Stock up on olive oil, stuff like that. Like, it's really nuts. Our crops are failing. Our supply chain is getting more and more expensive to run because of all the socioeconomic stuff happening in the world. And operational costs and operational stability is a real challenge these days. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think for me, like, the positives now that we're kind of like this new age of technology is you have so many different ways of reaching your customer. So instead of just, the traditional way of, going on Yelp or going on Google, a lot of people are looking at Instagram and TikTok and seeing those different avenues and seeing, oh, my favorite influencer, or this person tried this, and it allows you to reach like a broader audience. And especially when I'm working with restaurants, they're very big on how can we expand our digital footprint, and also having different revenue streams, not traditional, takeout anymore. You could be on DoorDash, you could be on these other sites, and bringing in income in different ways, whether that's, sponsoring catering or sponsoring, a special that you may have. You can reach that through a third-party app, where I feel like it's beforehand, it was just traditional, like, what's around the neighborhood. As somebody that's not from, Arizona and moved here, to find restaurants, I rely heavily on Instagram and TikTok and seeing what's around. And I think for me, like, I do appreciate trying new food, but I always want to see that. I want to see somebody else eat it beforehand and know that it's good before I get there. So I think that's a big positive that, wasn't available, I think, prior to COVID. It was more, we had to adapt, especially when I was working at Cloud Kitchens at the Ghost Kitchen facilities. That's pick up, delivery, nobody even knows you have a storefront. You really have to maximize your digital footprint and your presence online for people to get to know you, especially on these third-party platforms. And then I think, that can also be a caveat in some way, because, if you don't have that and people are looking that up and they don't see the reviews and they don't see the Google, and the numbers, it can almost work against you. But you have to play this like teeter-totter game of, keeping that up. And then I think food cost is a big thing. I know that some of the restaurants that I've worked with recently, they've had a lot of staffing issues and just people kind of switching from, kind of like if you're in a downtown area, it's easy to go from one place to another place, and I realized that was an issue that I've been seeing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think also the oversaturation of like same concepts all over the place. I agree with both of you on that. So the next question I have, how have customer expectations changed over the last few years, and what adjustments have been most important for your business? Go ahead, Liz.
I think customers expect more of like a higher tier. Like they want not only the food to look good, but they want it to look visually appealing. Everybody, wants to take a photo of their food or show their friends where they are. So they not only is the food, but they want the ambiance of where they are and see the atmosphere. It's we're in an economy that we're kind of where every dollar is starting to count. So when you do go out, you want to feel like you're having this like kind of special experience or special moment. So I'd say that's a way that I think the restaurant's changed.
Will you say the question again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. How have customer expectations changed over the last few years, and what adjustments have been most important for your business?
Oh, I see. Yeah, definitely. I feel like culture, like your company culture, how your staff is engaging with your guests, how your technology is engaging with your guests. The expectation on the customer side is very different. They do expect attention. They do expect to feel like they're valued, and they also expect to have a really good experience. And I think personally, I mean, we've all gone out. It feels like service has disappeared since COVID, and so like training staff to offer good service has been a real challenge that I've seen. Even restaurants that do it have a hard time actually executing it well consistently, and consistency is something that really matters too.
I know I may be going off topic because on the side I was actually a server for a little bit before the election season gets around. I've seen so many servers around that are just like look like they're just going through emotions instead of be like, hey, how are you doing? And more like a simple like trying to make the customer like they feel special at the place. It's just more like here's the food up, pay your bill and just move on with that.
Right, and I think a lot of that too is a greater socioeconomic question. Like a lot of our servers are really struggling in life, and so a lot of them are showing up to work wondering, why am I showing up here? I'm not going to make any progress. Depending on how much customer base, which is why I think we see a lot of movement in the industry because servers want to get somewhere where there's more customers, and it's hard to get more customers if your staff is moving around a lot because you can't offer that sort of consistency. So I think customers really are, the real challenge is they do expect good service, and they also are facing rising costs in their own lives in the restaurant, and so when they go and spend, like the $80 burger date is wild to me. You get a couple of beers, you get 2 burgers, and you look at your meal and it's $74. You're like, how did that happen? And then you're thinking, man, just 4 years ago I could have gone to steak 44, and had, you know, a steak and a glass of wine for $74. So I feel like customers are seeing prices rise, but they're not seeing the food quality or the food service rise. And I'm starting to see, I know we all live in our little echo chambers, but I'm starting to see a lot of talk about how most restaurants are just reheating frozen food, which is kind of true. I mean, a lot of us are buying the prepackaged, the pre-made. You heat this part up and add some fresh, you know, accoutrements onto it. But like,
That's gross.
but
The Cisco prepackaged
yeah,
food.
and I obviously have a little soft spot in my heart for Cisco, but like I've even seen like Cisco slop as a term on the internet, and it's not just Cisco. Shamrock and US Foods, they also have those, you know, everybody knows, you buy the prepackaged muffins or the prepackaged macaroni and cheese that you just defrost out of the bag and drop in the thing. So I mean, we all do that because it saves time, and in some cases it saves money as well, but customers are starting to be on that because they're buying fresh food because it's cheaper at home. They're making more, it's cheaper to buy some broccoli and some beef than it is, you know, for those people that have that and they're not like on a ramen budget. They're making more fresh food at home, so now they're starting to really taste the difference. Where before, we all ate out a lot and it really didn't matter. It was just convenience. We enjoyed being out with our people. We enjoyed, you know, the communion over food or whatever, and money wasn't a thing. But now that money is become a major thing for a lot of guests, I feel like that's where culture, service, and food quality really matters, because it's what helps keep them coming back. And then also, I mean, the other answer too is focusing on the upside of the K. I mean, like 80% of our economy is running on like 10 to 20% of our people right now. So if you have a restaurant and you're focused on the upside of the K, you're gonna have a whole different set of problems than if you're focused on the regular working class person. So.
Perfect. So another question hits on labor, and it continues to be a concern across the industry. What strategies have been successful in attracting, training, and retaining quality employees? If this is something that is not in your wheelhouse, we can skip the question, but I think that was more towards Dylan, being that he's the owner of his business. But if you guys can answer on that, that would be great.
I know the restaurant I'm currently working with, like Turquoise Food and Wine Bar, they were looking specifically for sommeliers and people that had knowledge, and they've gone through about 2 already at this point, because they would put out that they are knowledgeable, and then I would see it in person where they don't even know how to explain different types of wine and how to pair it with food. So I think there's a bit of a fibbing on resumes and overstepping sometimes. So I think it's like just weeding through that and doing more interviews and really making sure that it's a good fit before you bring that person in, or the people come in as GMs and this is actually their first time managing, and it ends up where like the schedule's messed up and then nobody's there and then the owner's coming in. So I think just making sure the person's qualified and checking references.
I feel like labor is such a multifaceted question, because there's like a lot of pieces to keep in an employee. Do they feel compensated? Do they feel rewarded? Are they having fun? Is there a culture where they're excited to come to work every single day? All of those things really matter. And then again, your ability to grow your business so that they are also growing in their careers. Whether it's just I'm working this while I go to nursing school and I'm gonna stop working in the restaurant industry in 4 to 8 years when I'm done, or if they just absolutely love the restaurant industry and they want to be there and they want to, you know, enjoy that atmosphere. So keeping staff on, I think in this current market is a lot about culture, and do you have a really strong culture, and what does that look like? Does your culture include medical benefits? Does your culture include like rideshare assistance? You know, maybe they're, you know, I have one client who will every once in a while has a server that needs a rideshare to work, so he just sends her an Uber, gets her a rideshare because her husband has to take their kid the way their daycare thing works out. So like, yeah, so like sometimes you just have to be a little bit more creative, and we're all human beings, and we're all showing up to this restaurant with the same struggle. we're trying to make a buck, and the bucks are harder and harder to find. And so I think a lot of that is about training. How do you train your staff? If you hire someone and you realize they don't have the skills, it's probably better for you to train them than to start looking to find someone else, because you're gonna have the same crapshoot of how qualified is this person that you now hire, where you've already got a body there, they already like you, you already like them, train them. But yeah, training I think is a really, really big piece to that, and your company culture. And those two pieces I think make a big difference in how you attract people and also how you keep them.
Well, and absolutely, and I see across the board when it comes to training that some restaurants don't have a training manual, and they are allowing the staff to train each other, and it could change day to day, and you know, the expectations are just
Well,
not
and there's
there.
also a lot of resources out there too for restaurants. So obviously I'm just a little bit Cisco biased, but I know Cisco offers, we'll send out our culinary chefs to train your staff. We'll meet with you and figure out, and obviously if you're working with Cisco, you'll have a sales consultant. And that's something you can talk to your sales consultant about and get training from Cisco on what's working, what's trending, like what are the restaurants that are really doing doing inside of their operations, and how do you translate that into your operation. And then I think Shamrock Foods does something similar with food costs. I don't know if they they'll help you with managing all of your food costs and stuff. I don't know if they do like server training type stuff too, but you should definitely talk with your sales consultants. They're a wealth of information from all of the companies, to be honest with you. Even if you're working with like people like Peddlers or any of the other food distributors, they all are a wealth of knowledge on how to get this. Your sales consultants are actually a really good source of information.
Yeah, perfect. So the next one down, how are rising food costs, and I think we kind of skimmed over this a little bit, how are rising food costs and supply chain fluctuations impacting pricing, profitability, and how would you say is the best way to communicate price increases to customers? I love this one.
So I can speak to more like on the delivery app side and third-party vendors. When I've worked with restaurants, they usually inflate their prices. So typically, the apps will allow you to inflate it between, this is kind of just ballpark, between 10 to 20% I've seen, just to offset the costs of acquiring, that third-party vendor, which can kind of help with the food costs depending on like the margins when you break it down. That's what I can speak on to, because that's my knowledge. And that I've seen that, be able to help some restaurants, but then on the caveat side, it's you have somebody that knows your brand and they're like, why is that price different on the app versus in the restaurant? But that's kind of just like the world that we live in. People want convenience and they want things now, so people see pay a premium. So it's like that is another way that you can kind of eat some of those costs.
Yeah, that I'll speak to that a little bit. There are also some tools and ways that you can work with like DoorDash and stuff where you're not paying that 30% more. So it depends on who you're partnered with, how you're doing your marketing, how you're managing your online ordering. There are ways to stack it so that the customer is paying a DoorDash drive fee instead of you paying a 30% markup on DoorDash. And I also know some restaurant owners that are just beast negotiators, and they're like, no, we're not paying 30%, screw you, we're not doing business, and eventually the DoorDash AE gives in and they sell at 10% or whatever. So there's a variety of ways to like address that particular piece of it. But as far as like just operational, food costs are going up, everybody knows food costs are going up, we're in the grocery stores too, we see our own food costs going up. But I feel like the most important thing is just real intimate command of your menu. You really have to be strategically thinking about your menu. It's no longer, oh, strawberries are in season, so we should do this. It's strawberries are in season, but how much did the increase in fertilizer affect my strawberry case price? And is strawberries really the best way to go because they're coming into season? So you really have to be strategically thinking about that. And again, if you're not getting food news, like if you're not following agriculture stuff, you're too busy in your restaurant or whatever else you're doing. If you're not absorbing all that shipping information and distribution information and agriculture information, if that's not you, you're a sales consultant. Your sales consultant should have that information. If they don't, they're probably new and overwhelmed because they're selling 28,000 lines. Or that if they don't, they will have access to someone who does and help you with that strategic stuff. So again, I would recommend leaning on the team that's already supporting you to get that information you need to really strategically plan your menu and keeping and really streamlining. It's the Cheesecake Factory menu is really a unicorn. It's having a super streamlined menu so that you're cross-utilizing supplies, and then you're also planning menus, especially now. We know beef prices are gonna be crazy. We know olive oil prices are gonna be crazy. All of these things, as you're looking into the future of what costs are rising, that's where you start strategically planning your menus so that you can roll a little bit with food costs so that you're minimizing your exposure to that, but then also it means you're minimizing the exposure to your customers where your costs are just going up.
And I also wanted to touch on when it comes to your customers, and if you have to pivot in the restaurant and your prices have to go up because of, let's say, the weather, drought, anything like that. Just being super transparent with your customers, putting signage out there so your customer is not losing their mind. Why did this go up, or why you don't have iceberg lettuce? So I'm super all about. One of the restaurants I worked at was very transparent, and I think our customers can really appreciate that.
I think table tents help a lot with that because they're a little bit easier to print. They're a little bit easier to get on it. You don't want to do a whole new menu design if you're using hard menus and repaint your menus every month or every 2 months or every 3 weeks, depending on what's happening in the world. But table tents can address a lot of that a lot of times. And I know I have some customers that on those items that are just wildly fluctuating right now, there's no price on the menu, price is on the table, tent on the table.
Yeah, that's absolutely. What role does technology play in the business today, whether through online ordering, delivery platforms, AI, automation, or customer engagement tools?
I think that's a full scope of an ecosystem right there. I think
Loaded.
yeah, like your POS system tied into, as well as the third-party apps are a great way to put your brand awareness out there. A lot of people are just sitting on their phone thinking like, what should I have for dinner? And they're typing in maybe pizza, or they're looking at Mexican food, and you want to have that marketing that showcases it, whether that's making sure 100% that there's photos with each menu item, because people are very visual now. They want to see what they're ordering. And then what was the other part?
Where did it go? So online ordering, delivery platforms, AI, automation, and customer engagement.
Yeah, so I say customer engagement tools then as well would be, Instagram, TikTok, getting that larger audience. Another way that I just worked with a brand is they do the trivia night, and they have poetry night at their place. But if I was to go online and look up poetry in my area, they don't auto-populate. So what we did is we created an Eventbrite, and it's free, and it doesn't cost them anything. But if they're ever hosting something at their restaurant, if I type in trivia night or poetry night, it automatically comes up, and I'm like, oh, that's a new restaurant. I haven't seen that before. Let me go there. So it's just coming up with these kind of different avenues and different ways to expand your brand and get your name onto a higher search engine, onto Google as well. And I would say also traditional Google reviews are very important. I've worked with a restaurant where if an employee gets one of the customers to leave a Google review, they get a little bit of a kickback. So it's kind of a little incentive if you need to get your reviews up, because that is important as well. But that's how I would overline that.
I feel like your software stack is going to make or break you. If you are, and it's important. I've been in software since 2010 with restaurants, so I have the things that I like. But the things that I like are not necessarily appropriate for every operator, because you have to use a software that you enjoy using, that you're willing to sign in and actually use. You have to have a software that your staff is happy using, especially when they're working with your POS system. So the software that you're going to use is going to be the best software for you. But I can tell you right now that I know a lot of, there's specific softwares that a lot of the high-performing restaurants are actually using. And those softwares are the ones that keep you in touch with your customers, where you don't have to think about it. Those are the ones that are dealing with your reputation management, where you don't have to worry about it. If you have a marketing person who's getting in there and doing all of that stuff for you. That's fantastic, but you don't have to. There's a lot of software that will do all of that for you. And it also depends on like the size of your operation. Like, what is the ROI on it? If the ROI is negligible considering the amount of revenue that you're making, then it's not really worth it to invest in it. It might be better to find another software that kind of does the thing that you want to do, but you're going to get the same ROI out of it, as opposed to spending the bigger dollars on the software that really focuses on that one thing. Like a good example would be Square just rolled out. If you're using Square, they rolled out a marketing program exactly the same as Pop Menu marketing. And so if you're like, I really want to do the marketing thing, but I don't want to pay for Pop Menu, well, just go back on your Square. Spend the painful time working with your account manager or a consultant or somebody who will be able to come in and show you how do you set up the marketing to work so that you can just kind of set it and forget it, and then move on with your life and go back to figuring out how to get your beef cases more affordable.
Right?
What's up, Bob?
Hey, talk a little bit about digital loyalty programs. Do they work? What's your experience with them? Is that something?
Yeah, digital loyalty programs, they do work, and they are super common. There's a variety of ways to approach it, and I'm sure you can talk about this too, because you probably have some experience with it too. But it comes back to your company culture. And if your digital loyalty program is aligned with your culture and how you engage with your guests, it's fantastic. I had a client when I was at Pop Menu who used their welcome email, like when you sign on to their VIP, they used their welcome email to get people to sign on to their VIP, so their list was big. They grew, they have like 109,000 followers. And you can see it in their stats. The welcome email had like an 80% same day use rate, where the promo code that they got for their free white queso, which is what they would give away if you would sign up, you give a free white queso. But it was just a part of their culture. You come in, have you been here before? No, we haven't been here before. Oh, fantastic, you should go to the website and join our VIP and I can get you a free white queso today. Like, oh, fantastic, well, what do you want to drink? That's it. They drop it, they get the drink menu, they leave, the customers are like, we want free white queso. They go on, they sign up, they put their email in, and then they get the little welcome email. Welcome to Jose Peppers, and here's your free white queso. And then at the end of the thing, oh, did you get the VIP promo? Oh, fantastic, I put that in, the queso comes off the menu. And that one email generates for them like $20,000 to $30,000 in revenue, because it's counting those first meals. But it also, more importantly, grows their list of people who've just had a great experience and are gonna come back again. So they're looking forward to those emails and those texts from that brand. So digital loyalty, depending on how you use it, can be super valuable. And if it aligns with your culture and you can figure out how to make it work where it's a part of the experience and the people are like, yeah, I wanna be a part of this, it can really drive a good 30% of your income regularly, month over month.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I worked for a company called ZenReach, and we did email marketing for restaurants specifically. So essentially you would go into a restaurant and you needed Wi-Fi, you would sign on and they would be able to capture that email address and then track every time that customer came back, even if they didn't automatically connect to the Wi-Fi. And this way you can see how many times the customer is reoccurring, send them newsletters, send them promos. I believe through Square you can also capture their email and their cell phone number and send them updates. I get updates from restaurants like, hey, did you know it's girl dinner tonight? Like $25, like just letting you know. So I think that is a great way to recapture some of your customers that have already been in, and then also having like a newsletter where they can sign up on their website to know any upcoming events or specials that you may be having, or if you're doing a catering thing maybe, or different promos that you may offer. Having that extra network and to reach your audience, I think, is key as well. But I think it's interesting to see, especially with like email marketing has now moved to more text messaging, where I've seen a lot more restaurants use texting, and then through OpenTable and Resi and these other apps too, they're able to like pull up your account and see, okay, what is your customer profile. And a lot of these POS systems could create like this ecosystem where you see everything that they've done. And it could connect like your DoorDash, it could connect your OpenTable, it could connect their in-house orders, and then you start to build that full customer profile. That's a whole other, beast in itself.
Yeah, that repeat business is really important. important. Once people come in your door, if they've had a good experience, you don't want them to come back 2 more times that year. You want them to come back 10. And that's really where that loyalty and that real intimate knowledge of your consumer and bringing them back in comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to mention, if you guys have any questions at any time, just raise your hand and we'll answer any questions. We're flying through these pretty fast, so.
We're missing Dylan.
I know. Next topic, for entrepreneurs looking to enter the food service industry, what opportunities do you see in the current market and what mistakes should they avoid?
I've seen, especially, where I live in downtown Phoenix, there's tons of new restaurants opening and failing right away, or within about 5 months they're no longer there, and it's because they have no customers. And I think a big part of that is coming up with a marketing strategy beforehand, making sure that you have the socials, the website, the Yelp, the Google, everything. Those are like basics, I would
Also
say.
connections as well too.
Yeah,
Maybe if you know a
connection.
council member or maybe like some chamber folks, be like, hey, check out this little restaurant made Ribbon County, you might as well get some more people coming in.
Exactly.
Especially to deliver a good product.
So I just did an influencer event for a restaurant that did a relaunch, and they were like, this is like the route. I gave them kind of like a marketing menu, and then they were like, this is the route we want to do. So I created a CRM of all the top, Phoenix food influencers or just Arizona food influencers, sent them out a message, hey, we're doing this event, do you mind coming in and creating content for us for free food? And a lot of these, they actually all did them for free. Some of these people had 300,000 followers on Instagram and 300,000 followers on TikTok, came and created all this free content for them, and then they're able to recirculate that and have that on their, the back drive to keep continuously posting and bring in new revenue. So when they did this relaunch, the influencer event, got all that content, and then did that relaunch, and it brought in a whole new, audience, I would say. So there's different ways, but I would say definitely having that digital component is really important, because unless someone's physically walking past your place or driving past, that's like the only way they're gonna find it, if it's not out there on the web.
What was the question?
For entrepreneurs looking to enter the food service industry, what opportunities do you see in the current market and what mistakes should they avoid?
Yeah, marketing, I feel like marketing is a big thing. Marketing should be, in your first year, it should be a major expense that you have planned for, and don't deviate from. I feel like the companies that I've seen launch and fail within the first year, it has to do with they launch, they get hyped for about a month, but then there's no marketing to back that up, and things go down, and then they don't come back up again. And then they run out of money because the rent still has to do, the power still has to happen, the food still has to get ordered, staff still has to get paid. And so then things just go down, and then morale is down because it's slow in the restaurant, it's obvious that it's not growing. So it's just kind of a death spiral where I feel like that first year, you do have to try everything. I don't care if you hate Yelp, you're gonna advertise on Yelp. It doesn't matter, you can hate them all the way to the bank, or in a year, if you're like, I don't know if this is working, you can turn it off, and if you don't notice a difference, you can continue hitting Yelp and never go to the bank on them. But I know a lot of restaurant owners who despise Yelp, but if they turn their ads off, their revenue drops by 30%.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, I'm kind of stuck using these mafia giants. I'm like, well, yeah, you are, because that's where people are looking for restaurants. Not only Yelp, but like I use that as an example, and that's a lot of, I feel like that's another huge thing for entrepreneurs is your amazing stack of pancakes is not a business plan. It's just not. And so as much as I love your pancakes and I probably think you're an amazing chef and fantastic to work with, you hired me to help you with business and to help you with your strategy and that sort of thing. And so as much as your pancakes are amazing, you have to put money into other things. You can't just care about the wild blueberries that you're gonna put in your compote. So that's another thing I think too, is realizing that you're entering in one of the most cutthroat industries. And it doesn't matter how cool you are, how charismatic you are, how great your food is, how many people you know, none of that matters. It comes down to, are you able to build and grow a business? And can people come in and think the business is how great your pancakes are? You have to be able to operate at that level Otherwise, your ego's gonna get in the way, your food costs are gonna get in the way, you're not gonna put enough money into marketing, you're not gonna trust your salespeople who are really there to support you, because they're not gonna get their commission check if you're not growing your business. Even the ones that work straight commission, because you're gonna start buying less and less cases. So they truly are there to support you. Some of them are better than others, I know, but use your resources. And I ran into, there's a downtown Chandler bakery. They do BNI. I wouldn't have thought about that, but like being in referral groups where you can go out and meet other people and showcase your catering or showcase something else, and getting in person and meeting with people is also a really unique way to kind of get out there and get local exposure to people who are already vested, because the people in her BNI group are like, well, we're gonna go meet at downtown Chandler Bakery. So she's got like a closed audience right there that every time they have a business meeting, they go to downtown Chandler Bakery. So there's like a variety of ways for you to do that. I loved the, what did you said something? Oh, like Eventbrite, that's something too. Letting people know what's going on Eventbrite, because people aren't there looking for restaurants, but they are looking for stuff to do. And if you've got stuff to do, be on Eventbrite. It's a great way to get your events out there. So
I love that you brought up networking, being that this is Mesa Chamber. It's a really missed opportunity for restaurants not to join a chamber and get out there and build relationships. Thank you for bringing that up, because it absolutely, if they can't get out of their walls, it's a trap. They can't get out of their walls, then we'll come to you and we'll figure it out. We'll pivot, we'll find a way. So I love that. And I also want to bring up too that you touched on, entrepreneurs going into the restaurant industry thinking that it's just easy, and it's not. It's like you said, it's cutthroat business, and yeah, you'll be in that death spiral in a year if you do your homework before you just jump into the restaurant industry. There's just so much to it that people don't even realize. So thank you for bringing that up. And
yeah, I think that people really severely underestimate. These people really severely underestimate the attention that you have to spend on marketing and networking in your first year. It's not just like I opened this great restaurant and I have this great food and things are flying by. And in all honesty, it's not even just the first year. Like I know Breakfast Bitch, if you look at their, it's a place. Yeah, it's a place. Yeah, it's a place.
It's a real place. On my blog, yeah.
It's a real place.
They go through a lot of hurdles.
Yeah, it's a real place. But their first few years, they were on fire. Lines out the door, wait lists for 3-4 hours long. They changed their software stack, closed a location. Now they're sitting on one location and line isn't out the door. It's a whole thing. There's a lot of pieces to it, and I feel like how you decide which pieces are your priority, it really depends on your operation, and kind of goes back to like what I said, the thing that you will do is the most important thing, even if it's not the most popular or the most trending. If you're gonna show up and continue to execute it with consistency, then it will help your business grow.
I will say also for breakfast, they have pivoted a little bit where they're not just doing breakfast, and they're now doing things on Friday and Saturday nights, and they've opened up their second half of the restaurant to almost like this,
It's like a club.
Like a club, yes, I would call it that.
Yeah.
And switch their food menu. They actually closed down a part of their cafe and now have an oyster bar.
Yeah.
That's their own personal choice. I haven't seen a big line there, but that's something that they've done because they've had to pivot because it's dead most days. I would also say back to when you said about networking, I think that's really important, joining the chamber, but also looking at local HOAs, seeing if you can just advertise in their like they have a newsletter or an email, like just those little things. And even there's tons of apartment complexes in Mesa, there's tons of condos.
Yeah, get creative.
Yeah, like do like a $5 off coupon, you could just drop it in their mailbox. You could also do like a direct mailer if you wanted to, depending on the cost that you wanted to go for, but there's so many different ways to reach a new audience that isn't just digital, I want to say, that you can just go around and say, hey, I have a promo and for this date. So there's an end date and there's not, the never ending.
That's a good point too, that Every Door Direct mailing service it's EDDM with the US Post Office, and you can find it on, if you go to the USPS.com, you go under business, you look for EDDM, you can choose the zip code right around and send, there's a specific like flyer size that it has to be, but you print out flyers and drop it off at the post office and they'll drop it at every single door in that route. So there's a lot of ways to do that, and it's not, you don't necessarily have to have a big old marketing company to do it, you just have to know.
Well, yeah, and with utilizing your chamber, I mean, we have so many opportunities. We have a relocation packet, you know, so for people that are moving to Mesa, wanna know what's going on in Mesa, what's in Mesa, you know, put your stuff in there. We have a Compass magazine, annual magazine that goes out, you can be in there. There is a directory, so restaurants, all the businesses that are in the chamber are in that magazine and the directory, but I mean, that magazine goes out to all the retirement communities, hospitals, hotels, doctors' offices, you name it, all the businesses that we have in our chamber, everyone gets one. So, I mean, there's just so many creative things that we.
That's another thing too, is to think about, like you were saying earlier, about being creative about your product offering too. I know there's a donut shop that it seems like it's just a small little donut shop, but she services like all the hospitals in the valley. So you go there and you think it's just this one small little donut shop, but she's turning like millions a year. Because she's servicing all of these hospitals and other customers that you just don't see from the storefront side. So there's a lot of ways that you can that you can get your product out there that doesn't necessarily mean butts and seats.
A lot of businesses do catering for their employees too. That's another avenue that you could definitely utilize through the chamber.
Yeah, like our catering box lunch program, so we started that to support our restaurants. So businesses can go on our website and see what, you know, restaurants are offering that to, you know, COVID did it, right? So catering kind of went away, not kind of, it actually died during COVID. So every restaurant had to pivot, everybody was doing box lunches and takeout. So, you know, restaurants that never used to do that before are doing it now, and we want to still go off of that, and, you know, businesses that are looking for lunches and things like that, you know. So we've come up with different ideas, so it's just being creative, right, you know?
Well, and to another just a little golden nugget, a lot of like medical companies, medical device companies, that sort of thing, they love spending on catering. So pharmaceutical reps, exactly. Yeah, it's a stereotype, but it's really true. Like I have a Chinese restaurant, and most of his catering is through the medical industry, like with pharmaceutical reps and stuff. So, so finding your way into that, but again, that circles back to networking. Who do you know? How do you know them? And how do you get their order?
Yeah, how do you get past the gatekeeper? Like, yeah, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. How important is community involvement? Here we were just talking about it, and local partnerships to the success of a food service. But, well, I think we touched on that pretty good on this last one. But if there's more to add, being part of the community.
Yeah, I just think there's a very vast amount of different avenues that you can take. It's the chambers, working with HOAs, apartment buildings, condos, kind of like reaching out to like a group. There's also Facebook groups. There's also like you mean meetups where you can post on something like that and then say, hey, like do you want to host it here for, you know, your meetup? I think that's a big avenue as well, and you know, kind of having those different variations and groups know about you, I think can bring in more business that we've touched on.
Yeah.
There's also like the team sports side of it too. Should it be a huge part of your focus? Maybe, maybe not. It really depends again on your culture. What is your business culture? But like, as I have 3 grown student athletes, and that team parent at your high school football team, they could get you a lot of exposure, and there's a lot of things that you can do for them that will help them service the team and service the school, but then also get you in front of the entire school. So depending on what high schools are around you, or like what little league programs are around you, and what type of demographics are around your location, that might be a really valuable resource to make friends with those team parents on the football team, on the soccer team, on the golf team. Well, maybe golf is kind of small, but the track team, football and track, those are your biggest teams. But getting in touch with those teen parents so that you're providing maybe one team dinner before they, head on the charter bus over to their game or whatever, or you've got, cups that they sell at the concession stand that has your branding on them, and so they buy the soda from the concession stand, but they walk away with a Jimmy Cheese mac and cheese cup, and like, what's this, right? So there's a variety of ways that you can work with the schools, and every high school again has a different culture on how that works, and if you find a good aligned situation, you can really get a lot of exposure locally. And I think we're coming back to the place where we're all kind of grossed out by the digital world and by AI and by all of that stuff, and so I do really think that getting out into the community in person is going to become more and more valuable. Right now, I still think we're kind of coming off the shock of COVID and being in that digital cloud, but I do really think as things get weirder, I think we're going to be more and more relieved to see a face and put a face to a business locally.
So also working with Mesa Parks and Recs, personally I have with my company, so there's a bunch of sports complexes, and I've just left my flyers there. So you can just leave your business card or leave like a little flyer about your business and partner with them. That's another way of hitting that sports, because they work with tons of youth programs. They have pickleball, they have adult pickleball, and you never know who you can reach in that audience just by leaving maybe like a little flyer out there or just working with them.
And that also comes back to the thing that you are gonna do is the most important thing. So like, if you're cooking at your restaurant and you show up at 9 and you don't leave till 2 a.m., you may not go out to the parking lot and do that. But if you have a day where you can do that and you are able to go do that, or hire somebody to do that for you and take those flyers there, the thing that you will do is probably the most important thing for you to do.
Something that I started with the ambassador program is I've gone to all the different restaurants and I get like coupons, something that'll get them through the front door, and I get my ambassadors this manila envelope stacked full of different coupons, $5 off here, anything to get somebody in the door. And when they get a new member, I want them to hand out, these coupons, so it's just a broader reach. So it's just anything that we can do to help support and promote that way too. So I love that. But here's the next really great question. Looking ahead to the next 3 to 5 years, what trends do you believe will have the greatest impact on the food service industry, and how should small businesses prepare? You kind of touched on that earlier.
I personally am just terrified of food costs. Like, I just don't know. I feel like I'm probably having a little Chicken Little moment, and like the sky is falling, because I keep going back to the S&P and looking at, okay, we've been through all of these things in the last 25 years. What has truly happened to the overall economy and to the overall average person? And having lived through, 9/11 and the housing crash and all of the other things that have happened since, I know I keep consoling myself like it's not going to be as bad as you think, it's not going to be as bad as you think. But for me, I feel menu strategy is going to be the biggest thing, because the labor situation, I think is challenging for greater socioeconomic reasons, where food costs is going to be something that we're just going to immediately see rising and rising and rising. And I feel like with the labor situation, unfortunately, I think a lot of that is going to be solved in time with policy. So what you can control in-house is really your menu strategy, and then your culture is how you're going to keep the stuff that you have now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think looking in the future, it's making yourself consistently stand out. I think people more and more want to resonate with someone's story. Why is this business open? Why does this food matter? So being consistent, I think, through this digital age that is continuing, making sure you have multiple streams that of income throughout your business. It's not just in-house. There's delivery, there's pickup, there's catering, there's maybe events that you're throwing that can bring in an additional crowd. So just having your hand in multiple different buckets, because I don't think one thing right now is gonna, in the future, just drive your business. You kind of have to branch out and, not just be, we're cooking food and that's it. You have to create that environment, that culture, that reason for people, and then that creates that community and the customer retention for people to come back more and more.
Well, and I have a question for both of you. So when it comes to restaurants, and you have to be very flexible, and soft pivot and your hard pivot, you have to have a balance, right? You don't wanna go too hard in one direction and not enough in the other. So what would that look like? How would you answer that for a restaurant person that is like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, and if I go too far this way or this way, you know, where's the balance, and how do you figure that out?
That's so situational dependent, situation dependent. I don't know, I feel like my mantra this week, I've said this to so many people, what you can do, what you will do, is probably the balance. Like, yes, there's a ton of softwares, and you can hire the best GMs and the most charismatic servers, and you can like invest all of your money and maybe go so far deep into spending money on your business that now you're like, oh, we can only maintain this so long, and if the customers don't show up, we're screwed. So you can do that, or you could be more conservative and be like, I've got 3 locations, this one's performing really strong, this one's like, and this one is not at all, like I'm just gonna close that one and this one, and maybe you over close, and now people are like, oh, something's wrong with the business, we're not gonna go there anymore, and you notice your strong business is now failing. But again, it just really depends on your situation and the things that you are willing to do, or are able to do, or are able to hire help to do, because consistency, the thing that you can consistently deliver is the thing that is going to help keep you going. That consistency is really important, both on the business side and on customer attention and retention, attraction and retention. Is being able to consistently show up in some way, shape, or form. Whatever that is, that's your company brand.
I mean, I think there's a little bit of dancing around. I think Lauren's talked about this, and I think Liz has talked about this. Talk a little bit about not letting ego get in the way of taking on help.
Oh yeah, we try not to talk about that, because who wants to hear how you're not the most important person in the room?
Well, right, but I mean, I think a critical element is understanding as a business owner when you need help and how to get that help. And you've talked about, hey, you have an entire circle of people to support you, right? So talk a little bit about the ability to accept that and use that as an advantage in your business.
I will say, when I've worked with businesses, I usually present like a marketing menu, as I call it, and I ask them, what stands out to you, and then I, give my recommendation of what I think would be, what the cracks I see. And a lot of restaurant owners, sometimes they do let their ego like, no, this is what I need to do. As a business professional, you have to step and be like, we can definitely do that, but that outcome that you're looking for might not lead to exactly what your end goal is. Like, that is definitely, a possibility, but being more, I think you have to look at it in black and white in a certain sense and be like, even though I don't think I should do this, or I don't necessarily know if this is the right option, this is the way that you can look at other restaurants. I think, for example, if you see a restaurant down the street that is doing great, I like to do a reverse, analogy. How did they get there? What are they doing? And how can we kind of replicate that in your own culture and in your own personality to make you successful too? So removing the ego, I think, is like the hardest part of it all, but just I'm a very data-driven person, so being able to look at the numbers as well and making, decisions based on that is the best way to kind of trust yourself and not let your ego get in the way, because if you have that data, then you can follow that and kind of use that as a forecast of what you need and how you can get there.
I mean, ego definitely is an issue, especially in the restaurant industry. And it's like, I feel like of all industries,
It's almost a prerequisite.
If you don't have a huge ego, you probably shouldn't come into the restaurant industry, to tell you the truth. But I think it's a thing everywhere. And I think part of it too is we live in this like guru culture now. I mean, for the last 10 or 15 years, we've all had Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Mel Robbins and all the people, right, telling us all the things. Go to the gym, drink your smoothies, do your stuff. And at the end of the day, the people who are busting ass in their business are the ones with the huge ego, and they're the ones that show up in the morning, and they're not listening to all the other gurus. And I feel like a lot of times when ego becomes a problem, it's when it's because you know because you saw this on this thing, you saw so-and-so told you this, you went to Tony Robbins, you walked on coals, and now you know. Like, that's where it becomes an issue, because ego is really probably the most successful indicator, I feel like, in a restaurant space. But you also have to understand that markets change, business change, people change, and if you can keep your ego intact, but be aware of the changes around you and pick up on new waves and not be static in your belief that you know, because the fact is you don't know. I mean, in January, who knew the Strait of Hormuz was gonna close? No one knew that in January. So being able to step back and look at yourself and look at your business and look at your business, how it sits in the market and how it changes, that's where your ego can be a real strength for you, because now your ego is the tool. You're like, oh, well, I gotta protect this. Like a month ago, gas prices weren't $120 a barrel for oil. Like, this is gonna affect all of my produce. 80%, like maybe you run a high-end restaurant, 80% of your menu is produce. You're gonna be thinking, okay, 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line, a year down the line, how do I pivot? What do I do? And that's not a conversation of putting aside your ego. That's a conversation of protecting everything that you've built. And so I think a lot of it is perspective, and how are you looking at this? And is it my business is my pancake stack, or is it my business supports my pancake stack ending up in front of people? And so it's just kind of a shift of perspective. I don't think killing ego is necessarily the thing, but divorcing yourself from the idea that you know. I mean, I feel like in 2026, if you're like even Gen Zers, millennials, Gen Xers, boomers, we all should be at the point where we realize we don't know. Like, we don't know. I mean, in the last 40 years, nothing that we were raised to believe we know has actually rolled out the way it was supposed to. So I feel like ego is a fantastic thing to have, but it should be a tool and not a constraint.
And also, and to wrap up, we're at the 10 o'clock hour. You know, I worked for a lovely man, the owner of Wildflower Bread Company, and one thing that he taught us about ego is, you know, building relationships, like dropping your ego, I should say, is, you know, building relationships with your restaurants around you. Go to them, see how they're doing. If you're successful, share your success with them. You know, good things come back around. So, I mean, I just wanted to bring that up too, is about restaurants. Don't feel like you're on an island. Absolutely bridge that gap.
Yeah, and like coming from the tech space, we have a similar fallacy where like, oh, don't talk about your business because somebody would just steal it. Like, no one can steal my ideas. Like, you can try, but I guarantee you it is not gonna be my idea. So, and building that stronger network, because you just never know when that business owner, something's gonna happen and it's gonna become a major boon to your either relationship or your customer base, or you just never know how those things happen. So having good relationships with your competitors is a really intelligent and really smart thing to do. And the better your relationship, probably the better person you are.
Absolutely.
It'll be easier to attract people if other people are talking about how great you are.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions or add anything?
Well, I have a question. So I service restaurants. I'm in the plumbing business, and we do grease traps and, you know, cleaning and clearing and all that stuff. What advice would you give me in terms of how best to reach that industry and have the impact? I mean, obviously I talk to a lot of restaurant owners, but you know, they're all busy people, and I think they pretty quickly forget who I am when it comes to the emergency.
No, it's really true. And this is where I'll just lean on my Cisco stuff. You have to be in front of their face every week, whether they want you there or not. You just have to keep coming in and be personable. Even if they don't want you there, if you're nice, they'll like just say hi, how are things going? Oh, they're fantastic. You never know when it's good. Like maybe it's the 20th week, maybe it's the 56th week, you show up and now their plumber can't show up and their main drain just exploded, you know, or their grease trap is plugged or whatever, you know, like, and it's just that consistent. And I know for you, that's a volume game and you're an owner operator, so it's probably not as feasible for you to be at every restaurant every week, but that consistency is really important, because you're right, they are super busy. But also for you, I would make friends. Like when you're in restaurants, who's showing up? Is there a liquor rep there? Is there food rep there? Is Ecolab in the building? Like look who's coming in, especially if you're going during the business day. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, sales rep days. If you're out there, who is their sales rep? Talk to that sales rep. They might have another customer who could use you. Like, it's wild to me.
That's a really good idea, yeah.
It's wild to me how underutilized sales reps are because we're so afraid of them getting sold. Like, we're so afraid of getting sold, but we live in an age where, yes, there's shady sales rep, they exist. There's bad sales rep, they exist. But if you're making use of your sales rep, I guarantee you your network and your relationships are going to be larger just in general. And you'll have a better picture of your business, especially in the restaurant industry, especially your food reps, whoever they are. If you have a good relationship with your food rep and you're talking about current events, you're talking about current vendors, you're talking about this happened at so-and-so's restaurant, that happened at so-and-so's restaurant, like it's a whole world of knowledge that they have because they're not just working with you. They, depending on if they're good, they might be working with 50 or 60 other restaurants at the same time. So sales reps, liquor reps, distribution companies, they're all great places to get information because they're all getting other information at different levels that affect your bottom line.
And also to answer your question, about getting in front of those restaurants, when you go and visit these restaurants, notice where if they have, a place where you can plug in your laptop or a phone, they want you to stay. They want you to do business in their restaurants. So go do business in their restaurants, answer phone calls, emails, and sit there, camp out with that blueberry muffin and coffee. That's what they want you to do, and then the more you do that, they're gonna start calling you by name, and then when the pipes burst, they're gonna think of you. So
I think also there's a component too of like being in person, but then also, you know, any new businesses restaurants that, you know, come up or open up, that you're the first one to send an email, you're the first one to reach out on their social media channel because somebody is watching that. So if I was in your position, I'd probably create like a little CRM on like Excel of all the businesses, their emails, the owner, and then send, hey, I'm your guy, I'm local, I work, and like say I work with X, Y, and Z so they know you're credible, and at least do that first touch, then a follow-up message, then a third follow-up message, then go in person. But this way they've already seen your name a few times beforehand.
If you're not an Excel person, HubSpot has a small CRM that's $100 a month, and you can pop people in there. And I hate executing tech stuff. I love strategy and showing you how to stack stuff, but even I can get in there and set up stuff.
I have no problem with the tech side, I have
Yeah.
a problem with the time side.
Yeah, you would send out like an automated message,
Yeah.
but like there's certain, like there's a service called Yesware too, where you put the first, the last name in their business and it automatically auto-populates that, and then you can send that message out. And you can change like, okay, I want these to get like a follow-up, or if they did follow up, then they don't get another follow-up email. So there are systems out there and automation tools that allow for email marketing.
Yeah, and also there's, I can connect you with a contact too. Marketing is also, like when it's time and you really need to be out under a hood somewhere or over a hood somewhere, your marketing will also be your main strategy of outreach because you're operating your business, so you can't sit at a Wildflower with blueberry muffin for hours, right? So having a good marketing team that understands like your needs, and again, the one that fits you is the right one. So I'll give you the number of someone, but yeah, there's a variety of ways to get out there digitally where you don't have to be using your time to get out there. But also networking, do you have like a regular networking group that you go to once a week? Okay, fantastic.
I bailed on yours, but that's not because it wasn't a good one. Had a
That's okay.
conflict.
No, that's okay, it's all right.
But I belong to some other ones as well, and yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah.
do the networking thing. I mean, I think for brand awareness that helps, but it hasn't really brought a lot of business in the year I've been in business.
Yeah, I have
That's the
mixed
hard part,
feelings
like,
about
where do I
it.
spend my
Yeah,
time?
I have super mixed feelings about it. I have this conversation with my current boss now every week. I have a heavy day, and every day at the end of the day, I'm like, I hate networking. I hate it. I feel like it's a waste of time. But then, like yesterday, I had a bunch of one-on-ones, and I was like, I told them on Monday, I was like, tomorrow's gonna be awful, I'm just gonna be sitting all day talking to people. But then I met like 3 of our ideal client profiles, through that networking. So I feel like there are ups and downs with networking, but it's one of those things where it is brand awareness. It is one of those things that you invest your time and energy in, and continue to do so. We're over time.
We are definitely over time.
But yeah, it is brand awareness, and that should be a part of your marketing budget. But then also your digital marketing plan is really important. And then also your strategic, like when you're in a restaurant, who's there? Get their business card, talk to them, make sure that if they know another restaurant, that they have something
Yeah,
to
I
call.
really like that. I'm gonna start doing that more. I didn't think about.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of reps in and out of restaurants all day long. It's not just food, it's not just liquor. They've got chemical reps coming and going. They've got oven reps coming and going. I mean, everybody is coming and going throughout the day.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we're gonna wrap this up right here. I wanna be respectful of everyone's time. So you ladies are amazing, and we as a chamber appreciate you guys coming up here and giving us your insights.
thank you. It's an honor to be
I know, absolutely. So, I know you had some, tool marketing, that you wanted to share. Maybe we can get it out
Yeah.
to people that came here today, or.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like that marketing menu that I was like discussing when I do meet with a restaurant. It's just, it is, I will say, per restaurant, depending on if you're like a cafe or if you're a sit down or what your goals are, but it's kind of like a checklist that I go through that's like, okay, website, logo, like basic, but then it gets into like Eventbrite, the DoorDash, the catering, the pickup, and it's almost like a little checklist that I could definitely share with you guys.
That would be great, if you could share it with us, and then maybe we could share it with the group.
I think all components are needed
Yeah,
eventually to make a
absolutely.
successful business.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just figuring out, like I said, kind of data driven, where do you start and what's the most important from you? Maybe it's, getting those contacts and reaching out and having, like almost like a CRM of, new customers that you can reach out to, or maybe it's the customer retention, or maybe it's, attracting new customers digitally. So kind of goes through all of that and what's important to you.
Perfect. You guys, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it very much. Is there anything that, any last questions? Nope.
If there's time.
You have a quick question?
You can hang out. You can hang out and chat.
Yeah.
Hang out and chat.
If
I know
anybody
people
needs to
got
take
places
off,
be,
do not
so.
feel obligated to stay,
Let's
but
let
we'd
them-
love to answer your
Let's
question.
let them do their thing.
What's your question?
Feel free.
During COVID, ghost kitchens, went crazy. And so where's the direction for ghost kitchens now? Declining?
It has been due to environmental factors. I've seen, especially in Chicago, when I was working for Ghost Kitchen, for Cloud Kitchens, when you have 30 or 40 businesses coming out of one area, a lot of CO2 or just not great environmental waste was going out there. So I know some of them did get shut down because the city would protest them. But I do think when you have like your own business, if you're not running it with another, like it's a building of like a bunch of, I think can be profitable, because you can have 4 or 5 businesses coming out of one kitchen, and that looks like 4 or 5 businesses on DoorDash or on Uber Eats. So if you have the equipment to run more than one business, maybe you have your front of house business, but then you can have like, maybe a pizzeria in the front, but you actually also have pizzeria and a bakery and just a pasta company on DoorDash or on Uber Eats. So then you have 3 different revenue streams then. So that's where I think the initial setup, I should have said the infrastructure when they had it going, they had some hiccups, but when businesses incorporated it in-house, I've seen that take off even more.
I would say that is accurate. If you already have an operating kitchen and you set up like a second menu and you run it as a different brand, digitally only, that has a higher likelihood of success. But again, your digital marketing and how you get out there digitally, your presence, your footprint, how big you are digitally makes a big difference. But the overall like data and trends on ghost kitchens is that it's not something that I would recommend investing in, just overall data.
So going back to what you said much earlier, is people are eating at home. And that's the trend now, and
Yeah.
not so much DoorDash anymore.
Yeah.
I think it depends though, like for I guess like if you have a family, it makes sense, but sometimes buying all the ingredients to make food is actually more expensive for me as, you know, somebody who lives alone than it is to just order something to go. Which is it's cheaper to get a taco for $5 than it is for me to go get the ground beef, the cheese, the sour cream, the
I guess I'm gonna have to push back a
Yeah.
little bit. So even though you might be stretching a little bit more dollars if you're going by the grocery store thing, but you can stretch a lot further compared to if you
That,
would
that
pay
$10 taco
$20.
lasts you all week, where the $5 taco lasts you.
I guess I see it too where
Yeah.
like people, or I guess like with a lot of, you know, my friends or just the people I'm around, they end up buying too much food, it goes to waste, and then the next week they're like, why did I buy all this food that I know I can't eat all at once? Or, and on the sidetrack, I had to spend so much money to make this dish.
Yeah.
This one dish that's gonna last me 2 days when I could go out and get takeout, and that might
Yeah.
last me 2 days.
I mean, there's definitely a
Yeah.
demographic of people that are eating out and that are taking food and spending food on eating out. And that's again where it comes into how intimately do you know our customer and how engaged are you with them? Because at the end of the day, we are all going to go out to eat probably still once or twice a week. And where we go depends on who is top of mind and where we've had a good experience these days. It used to be we were more willing to like try new stuff or just meet some friends here or go to, it was a little less of a decision. But I feel like now people are getting more and more overwhelmed with the cost of everything. And so they're getting more particular about where they go. So they want to go to brands they trust, where they know they're gonna have food they like, and they're gonna